Just wanted to ask about the idea of turning the other cheek, how that fits in with boundaries.
Yeah, that's a great passage. It's part of the Sermon on the Mount as well. I'll give you a plug here. My book, Dirt and Stardust, I talked about it in there. But quickly here, there's a way of reading there's a three distinctives that Jesus gives us about going the extra mile, turning the other cheek, and giving away our cloak. All of those are addressed really beautiful by a scholar named Walter Wink. And he talks about how each of those responses is about turning the focus back on the person who's acting poorly, the person who's oppressing. And really quickly here, in ancient Semitic cultures, you always address somebody with your right hand, never your left hand. There's hygienic reasons to that. But if somebody slaps you on the one cheek and you turn the other cheek to them, what it means is you're forcing them to slap you with an open hand instead of the back of your hand. And the back of the hand was the way that a master would treat a slave. And somebody dismisses you like that and says, you're not on my level, you turn the other cheek to them and you say, I'm not going to fight you back, but I am going to force you, if you're going to continue to act this way, to at least treat me as an equal. And that's what some scholars think Jesus is doing, is shaming that person and saying, what you're doing is wrong. And the way that I'm going to bring attention to that is with active nonviolence, resistance to what you're doing. I think it's a really beautiful way. I think there are ways that we can demonstrate that in our world all the time, both in our interpersonal relationships, but even in our relationships with government and authorities around us. We never choose the violent or the easy way to stand up to those things, but we also don't allow injustice to go unnamed in the world. And that's what Jesus is trying to point us to there. So anyway, Walter Wink is the scholar I would check out on that one.
It does, I love your question, Mason. It does open up this layer of forgiveness, which is around justice. And what does it look like? I think if we are all in our places of pain and hurt, and we're deciding, I need to forgive this person, and I don't, discerning the right way or the realities of this relationship, move toward this person to say, what you did hurt me. Giving someone the opportunity to know the harm that they caused and to live toward receiving that forgiveness, I think that's a really interesting and important piece of the conversation when it comes to forgiveness, is that I could quietly go about forgiving all of these hurts in my life, and I haven't offered the person an opportunity to grow. And to me, that sometimes is lacking the love that I think we're invited into. That's
great.
hard.
Yeah.
That's hard, though.
How do you react to people that kind of use this as a weapon? I've offended you. You as a Christian are obligated to forgive me.
I think that's why I wanted to jump to Luke tonight, to say you have to read Jesus' words in the context of all of the things that he says. And I think he does give us context to say forgiveness is not about forgetting, and it's not about condoning, and it's not pretending this thing didn't happen. Sometimes there are very real consequences to breaks in our relationships. At the same time, the way somebody can weaponize that to say, you're a Christian, you have to forgive me, we can weaponize the other way and say, well, now you've done a bad thing, and now I'm just going to hold on to this pain the whole time. Both of these are missing that sort of really hard, narrow path that Jesus calls us to. And I think that's, Jesus uses that language, right? That narrow path. This is what we're called to. It's easy to hold on to pain forever. It's easy to just expect people to get over it. The hard thing is to walk that line where we say, I'm going to do both. I'm going to remember what's happened, but I'm also not going to hold on to the hurt forever. And I'm going to always hope that there's opportunity that you might change. And that's where forgiveness becomes more than just like a prayer that we offer or a thing that we do and then we move on. Forgiveness is an ongoing process that sometimes we have to get up and we have to do every day of our lives. Like if somebody's really hurt you, you're probably not going to forgive once. You're going to forgive every day because that thing's going to come to mind and you're going to have to choose to say, I am moving past this. But again, you move past it once you metabolized it, when you've learned from it. So the one thing I would say in response here is nobody here should feel any pressure to do this on anyone else's timeline. If you've been hurt and it takes you a year to forgive, that's how long it takes you to forgive. it's not up to that person to tell you when to get over it or when to move past it. But still, there is that voice of Jesus saying, hey, healing is there. There's going to come a point when you're ready to move past this. But you get to determine that. I'm not here to tell you how quickly or how fast or when you have to forgive. What I'm telling you is there's coming a time, and it will be for your good, and your healing will require you letting it go. And as long as that's between you and God, and you're being honest and you're processing the things, then sometimes you just have to set the noise aside when somebody's telling you how it's supposed to go or what it's supposed to feel like for you. And you say, you know what, I'm doing my best, and this is between me and God. So that's what I would offer. Bobby?
I do find myself thinking a lot about how close of a relationship forgiveness is with the stories we tell ourselves. I think in a way, this is the gift of this prayer. It holds me to forgiveness every time I pray it, and I pray it a lot. But every time I pray it, I am brought back to the story of my hurt. And my relationship with that hurt is about the story I tell myself about that hurt and about that relationship. And that's a tough mental thing, to walk yourself through the story of the pain in your life and decide where you spend time and where you kind of move on, or how much you insist on being a victim in the story and how much you say, I am going to be something other than this terrible thing that happened to me. I really can't see myself becoming who I've become without, I'd say, 3 to 5 really terrible stories in my life. I do not become the person I am proud of without those difficult things and those intense places of pain. But it's all because I found a new way to tell myself a story about who I wanted to be. So I don't know how direct that answers that question, but it's something I wanted to say tonight. So thank you, Paul, for letting me just swing over there to this invitation to you to think about forgiveness alongside the story we tell ourselves about our pain. I think there's a beautiful way forward for us. So I'll leave it there.
I love it. That's a good place to end.